Well, hello people of Defend the House, and welcome back to The Tower. This is episode 2, and if you missed episode 1, this is the show where we are ranking every major new AAA release against one another for their place amongst The Tower. I think a good place to start is in Volume 1. The Tower was simply a physical stack of games, as you can see here, but I believe it's had a little bit of a facelift. Wow, look at it.
It did turn out pretty okay.
It does look cool.
I will say.
I can't physically see it now, but I have seen it. And it was, it's pretty impressive.
We've got a lot of space for games.
Yeah.
A lot of tower growth. If we exceed the height limit, we'll worry about that in the future, because let me tell you right now, I'm not making 2 of these towers side by side, because it will really look a lot like a certain pair of 2 towers.
I didn't think about that.
That's a problem for the future,
Yeah.
but yes, there are special places for the really special games too. Should we eventually have a game that's so terrible that there is a graveyard that it will sit amongst esteemed peers of terrible games.
The trash pile.
It's so bad it doesn't even belong in the tower.
Nice, I like it.
And maybe there'll be a game one day that goes beyond the tower, into the clouds, into the heavens. Yeah, it's gotten a little out of hand in the way our stuff always tends to.
Yes, it is the way.
We also for two Patreon related things.
Okay.
We have I have a big behind the scenes thing documenting the
Making
creation that'll be up
Cool.
by the time this video is live. And then we are also now taking suggestions for games to rank on the tower from our Patreon folk. We solicited a list of games from the Patreon people, and we are going to rank one of them. So for now, we're just gonna manually pick a game. I think eventually we might get to a point where we make it a random thing.
I guess it depends like how busy things are. Because I saw someone put Persona 5 Royale in there.
I don't have time to play that.
We don't have time to play like a 150-hour JRPG.
Yeah, so it's, a little tricky to balance here. So, the first Patreon suggested game we're going to rank is a little game called Minecraft. And that was suggested by a Tickmas.
Thank you for the suggestion.
And that was the one that jumped out the most to me as well,
too.
because I was like, it's Minecraft,
It has to be on the tower somewhere.
It's like the game in a lot of ways.
I would say Minecraft is almost beyond a game at this point. It's almost like a platform.
Oh, 100%, yeah. I regard it definitely less as a game and as a platform and a tool set for Minecraft experiences.
I also can't think of any game that's ever expanded out of control than Minecraft from where it started.
Yeah.
Maybe Fortnite. But Fortnite needs like 5 more years to catch up with where Minecraft has gone, at least in my mind.
I agree, yeah. Like, it's, Fortnite is crazy, of course, but Minecraft is like Lego, It's like, it's beyond, I don't know. Like, everyone knows what Minecraft is.
Fortnite is
on
also
Earth,
just
I
like
feel like.
It's like a spin on what PUBG started. It obviously popularized the Battle Royale genre and but it is hugely influential in a lot of things. But like the core of Minecraft when it came out, it was so like revolutionary in the indie scene.
Oh yeah.
Like no one had done anything like that. And I feel like even if Minecraft came out today, it would still be like, holy shit, this is such like a fresh and interesting idea.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's like, I actually on occasion listen to some older gaming podcasts for fun, because it's fun to like hear where things were at 10 years ago. And not too long ago, I listened to one where Minecraft had just come out, hit like beta or alpha, which would have been, I don't know, 2010?
Yeah.
And there was so much discussion about like, that's not a video game. Like people were so confused about what counts as a game back then.
It didn't have an ending for ages.
Well, and it was so nebulous and so free form, and games nowadays are so different than they were 10 years ago, and people regard them so differently. 10 years ago, everyone was like, a video game is an 8-hour campaign and a multiplayer, and like that's it. And nowadays, like, games mean whatever you want them to be, whatever the developer comes up with, and I feel like Minecraft is a major part of shifting people's ideas of what a video game can be because of how different it was and how free form it was.
So sort of like the dream PC game in a lot of ways. I think me and you specifically have complained a lot about these games which come out and we kind of want them to be more broken open than they are. I remember when PUBG came out and we were like, wow, I can't wait till this game gets like broken open and there would be like modded servers.
Yeah.
And same with Apex, and Fortnite actually has opened up a little bit, but so many of these games are just so locked down. Minecraft was crazy because I wasn't even a PC gamer when it came out. I had this little MacBook and I had to keep the render distance to low, so my opening like year of Minecraft was this foggy landscape. But a Minecraft server, which you can even do on Xbox nowadays, was just so new and fresh to me. I know there's been a lot of PC games like that, but the idea of like an ongoing server which is hosted by someone else, which is perpetual, and you can log on whenever you want, it becomes like a social environment. It was just like mind-blowing at the time. And now that you can do it on Xbox, that's crazy.
And it's also like a game that just is, I don't know, people still, like, people that are very minimally interested in games still on occasion like talk to me and say like, jokingly talk about Minecraft and be like, oh, do you make Minecraft videos for a living? And it's like, no, but I fucking wish.
I wish, yeah.
And like, people to some degree still regard Minecraft as like a children's game for babies, but like,
that game's complex.
Minecraft is so much more than that, and I feel like that's such a dismissive attitude towards Minecraft. Yeah. It's like looking at Lego and saying Lego's for children. It's like, well, no, they're $4,000 for a Lego set, and they all say like 18 plus on them because they're so complicated to make. And it's just like, it's a tool set that is fun for anyone that has creativity in them, really. And like, you can, there's all these weird mods and survival mode and this and that. I've always liked Minecraft as just a building tool with a nice vibe. And
I like the exploration part of Minecraft. It's a fun world to explore, and the crafting system is fun. Finding your first chunk of diamond is still exciting, like 10 years later, at least when you're on a new server. And the way it's expanded into like this platform, I've been playing a bunch of custom maps recently, just within the Microsoft, whatever you want to call it, Xbox Game Pass PC thing. And it's cool. Like, these aren't like as creative as the Java modded scripted stuff. But within just like the Xbox ecosystem, there's like a bunch of interesting and new ways to play Minecraft.
Yeah.
And also, as like an internet YouTube nerd, I like watching Minecraft ebb and flow almost generationally at this point. Well, like, I was there for the beginning of the Yogscast and the Shadow of Israfel Machinima series, which felt really fresh at the time. And then Minecraft died and was made fun of. And then the Zoomers came along and started making content on YouTube. And they, there was Tommy in it and Dream, and they brought back Minecraft. And I think, I don't keep on top of it, but I think maybe Minecraft is lulling again. And then, I don't know what the next gen is called, Gen Y, Gen Z, whatever.
I don't know.
I'm sure in 5 years, they will have their own Minecraft renaissance. It just keeps coming back for every generation when like the new content creators come up. It's just never going to die, and it's going to be here forever.
Yeah, and like there's a reason it's the best-selling game of all time by an enormous factor. Like, it's at 238 million units as of 2021.
Yeah, and we keep going back ourselves. Like, we take like 2-year breaks, but we keep going back for like the RTX update, for the custom stuff.
Good. It's it's a one of a kind. Absolutely.
It might be like the best game ever made.
Yeah, like when people ask what's the best game ever made, and I feel like the obvious answers are Tetris and Minecraft.
Yeah.
Because they're just forever games. They'll just literally forever be good. Tetris will always be good. In 1,000 years, when people are on spaceships fleeing the burning Earth, Tetris will still be fun.
Yeah.
And so will Minecraft. Like.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. So is it better than Elden Ring?
We have a problem here. We have a problem.
Yeah.
What do we do if a game is so good that it's going to sit at the top of the tower forever? Because that will break the excitement of this show. We want there to be some competition when it comes to the top of the tower and the bottom of the tower. That's the coveted spots, one more coveted than the other. But we always want that to be... They probably won't change that frequently, but we do want there to be big events where the top and the bottom changes. It would be like a really fun moment to happen across the years. And we can't put Minecraft at the top of the tower because we could die before it moves.
It would just ruin a lot of things.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't put it somewhere.
Minecraft can sit beyond the tower.
Whoa.
It can sit in the clouds above the tower.
In the upper echelon, like Cloud 9.
Yeah, in the heavens.
I think that feels good. A legendary status.
Yeah, it really would just completely ruin the tower if we had something like Minecraft at the top.
It's too powerful.
It would just be at the... Yeah, exactly. And there's
a few other games which come to mind, which if the patrons pick those games, they would also like break the tower. I won't say what they are, because obviously the patrons are just going to say them, but there are a couple games which would also break the tower forever.
Yeah, I could think of 2 or 3. 3 off the top of my head, I think. I think that's fun. I have a lot of, headroom space on my tower set.
Yeah.
And I think putting something so good above the tower and where it just lives forever in the heavens feels good.
And it's good. It's a good thing to have. It's a good tool to have because, maybe in the future we'll get lucky and there will be a new AAA release where we're like, this game is so good, it's not fair. And it will go up there with Minecraft as a new release. That would be very exciting. That's a dream.
It could happen.
Oh, yeah.
It could definitely happen.
I hope it does.
Hopefully there's not too many graveyard contenders. That would be unfortunate. I would
say that's more likely than the opposite.
Yeah. All right, there you go. Minecraft. A little game, easily ranked. It's already broken the rules.
It's made new rules.
It's made new rules.
That's how good it is.
That's how good Minecraft is, yeah.
Alright, back to our usual programming of ranking all the new released AAA games. The next one, chronologically, is at this point not really very new. A certain game called Zelda has slowed everything down. But regardless, right before that, Star Wars Survivor? Was that the first one?
Star Wars Jedi: Survivor.
Okay. So when Fallen Order came out... For a little, backstory.
We've discussed it somewhere.
Yeah, we did a little roundup podcast, I'm not sure. So when that game came out, I had issues with most parts of it. I thought the combat was rough, I thought the platforming was rough. But it got like a massive free pass because it was really unusual for like a big AAA shooter team to just go so off the course from what they usually do. Mm-hmm. And, Respawn were trying to do a Star Wars IP... kind of From Software inspired melee combat thing. Which was kind of, I don't know, they got like almost respect for it, for just doing something different. I think we all like it when AAA developers don't get stuck in like this little alleyway and spread out. So it got a lot of goodwill is the term I'm looking for. A lot of goodwill towards Fallen Order. And I think the consensus for us, and maybe in general, was this needed a bit more time, but it could be really good in the future. Yeah. I'll let you say what you thought about Fallen Order before we go any further.
I think we both agreed in the chat. We were like, this is almost good.
Almost.
It's not, not amazing, but like, it was almost good, which is, I would be very specific about that. It wasn't almost great. It wasn't almost amazing. It was almost good. It needed more polish. But it also just needed a little bit more thought to bring it sort of cohesively together into something that made a lot of sense, because it was a bit disjointed in its ideas. And I was very curious about a sequel because I thought, it's a sequel. You iterate and improve and bring things together in a more coherent manner.
Yeah.
Traditionally, that's what sequels mean, and so I was very, very curious to see what they were going to do with, what's this game called? Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. They didn't do that.
They didn't do that.
And when they announced it, I was like, okay. And then they showed gameplay, like, I don't know, in December or something, and I was like, this looks identical to the first game. Right down to the jank-ass animations. And I went in with an open mind and open heart. And, they just made the exact same game, exactly the same quality again.
Yeah. This is the least improved sequel I think I've ever played in my entire life, and I kind of can't believe it.
Yeah, they didn't do anything to improve.
This is just an expansion. To a
Yeah.
2019 rough From Software wannabe game. And my goodwill is gone, completely gone. You had 4 years to make it like a little bit better, and it's just the same shit, dude. And I didn't love it in 2019, and it's 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was like the middest shit I have played in a long time. I thought pretty much every aspect of it was like really rough and felt quite cheap. It reminded me of like all these wannabes you see, the Surge, Lies of P, which is coming out soon.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just really shocked because it was almost good in 2019. So why didn't you just put in the extra time to just bring it together? Because this game has a lot of content. They've added a lot of stuff. There's new stances, there's new traversal stuff, obviously a whole new map, campaign, characters, writing, voice acting. It's not like a cheap cash in. They put a lot of stuff in, but they just didn't improve on anything.
I agree.
In a way which is borderline bewildering. Like, even the part where Cal kind of like falls through terrain when you don't make a jump is still in the game. It's so weird.
It is very odd because I think it's sort of a shame because it's the exact same problem as the first game of like, man, they're really close.
I know,
to like,
it's almost good.
They're really close to like a really cool thing.
Yeah.
But it's just not there at all. And it's frustrating because there are moments, there are aspects of it that I like and enjoyed, and there were a few chunks of the game where I was like, yeah, I'm really enjoying this. But those were like, 30 minutes, and then it would just sort of go back to the same old. And I was definitely I don't know if maybe I would say shocked by how just like functionally identical all of the issues are.
Yeah. It's janky and rough in the exact same ways. That's the most bewildering part of it. And I would say at this point, everything is starting to feel a little dated. The platforming is very Uncharted, Tomb Raider, which is like, it's still kind of mindless and fun in a like a, I don't know, like an easygoing type of way. But again, I just like with Fallen Order, I found a lot of the platforming to just feel just like really rough and odd.
It feels bad. Yeah.
I kept having these moments where I was trying to jump somewhere and it was like I was going in the wrong direction. It's like the visual design of some of the platforming stuff was really confusing. And I would keep like trying to jump and I was like going in the wrong direction and it looked like I could go there. And then Cal does that thing where he just like flops to the ground. It's like, wait, what just happened there?
I know,
like,
yes.
Oh, wait, I'm supposed to be going left? Okay, I'm going left, I guess.
Yeah, I was shocked at how many times I'm playing through the game. And like, we're not idiots. We play a lot of games.
Yeah.
It's very clear where you're supposed to go in games for a reason.
I mean, it's a Star Wars game. It should be made for idiots anyway.
And yeah, we'll come back to that a few times because that's another huge part. It's a Star Wars game. Yeah. There should be a certain level of accessibility there.
Very accessible.
And I have, I respect the idea of like, oh, we don't want to just make every climbable path, a yellow handhold like every game. But there's a reason things are yellow in games because it's very clear where you're supposed to go. And the number of times, where it was just like, I'm standing there, I'm like, am I going left? Am I going right? Am I going up? I have no idea which way I'm supposed to go here. Let's try this way. Nope, there go, fall to your death. That happened every 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Same.
Like, constantly, everywhere. like it's just odd that like it got through testing, because I remember it happening a few times in the first game, but it's like they ramped it up for this game, and it just makes every time you're exploring feel bad. Because
it does feel bad, yeah.
You just lose the momentum, and you're like, it makes you feel like an idiot, and that's not fun.
I also just feel like even when it works, it doesn't feel great.
No,
It has that overly snappy magnetism, which just doesn't like look and feel amazing at times.
That applies to everything in this game. It just never feels great.
It never feels good.
And it's not short. It's like 20 hours or so.
Yeah, I rushed, but yeah.
And I never at any point felt like I got it when it comes to traversal and combat. And that's just really weird to me.
Even when you do get it, there just wasn't a lot of, platforming sequences which I was like, wow, that was so satisfying.
Yeah. The one standout sequence for the whole game for me was the end of the like desert section when you're with the girl and there's like the weird giant
the drill. Was it drill?
The weird drill thing that's chasing you and you're like zipping around. I was like, that's a cool set piece. That was fun. I did it without failing.
I still found that like Superman flying bit like a bit strange looking.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Kind of cool, yeah. Cinematically, it was cool.
It's a little jank for sure, but it was like, oh, that was a good set piece. That was cool. And it didn't fuck up. But that was the only time. That was the only time in the whole game.
Yeah, we should probably talk about combat.
Ugh.
Oh man,
I fucking hate the combat in this game.
I
did not like it in the first game. It felt like shit, and it feels worse here.
So for me, there's two things which happen in combat for me. Either I find this game an absolute cakewalk where I just shred everything in a way which is fine. It's a little mindless, but I feel like everything is now like an easy Sekiro, where it's like you either dodge or you parry, and then everything dies. Or there's a big group of enemies, and it's just really annoying to deal with.
Yep.
I feel like this game is lacking AI which prioritizes when to attack you. I know people complain about, in Assassin's Creed, the enemies are just like waiting for his friend to attack you. And it's because, it feels good. It feels good when only two enemies attack you at a time in Arkham games and Assassin's Creed games, even if it's an immersion-breaking thing. But it feels like this game doesn't really have that. And you can get into a room and be like shot by 3 things, you're being aim flinched or whatever you want to call it, like stunned, and then like 4 enemies are charging you at a time, and like they're faster than you can run and dodge. And I just found like I was getting ganked in a way which is really unsatisfying and annoying. And I'm sure like I wasn't the best at the combat. I'm sure there is crowd control stuff I wasn't utilizing that well, but I'm like pretty good at the combat when I'm not getting ganked. Like I pretty much didn't die in boss fights because again it's like an easy Sekiro when it's just like one-on-one. But yeah, I just found the grouping of enemies really frustrating and annoying, like the way they were like organized and designed in a room, because you have like these enemies which are like in the distance, but you can't just deflect the blasters, you have to like run and like try and jump up to them and slash them and chuck your lightsaber, and I just found the combat encounters annoying a lot of the times, or really easy. It's one of those two.
Yeah. I found them mostly extremely annoying. I like the idea of the different stances. I think that's a cool...
Yeah.
But the problem is really just that the combat, like the traversal, it just never feels good.
No, the animation is like janky, and you can't even like string stances together, so it's kind of like one or the other. I don't know.
And you can't... There's just never a good flow.
No.
There's never a time where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in it. This is feeling good. And I think one of the things I noticed that really irks me is that there is a lack of auto-aim, basically, with the attacks. There's a lack of auto-connecting in the sense of, like, when you're within a certain range and you hit the swing button, you might nudge the character forward a little bit more to make sure the swing hits, right? But this game, it's like you weren't in the perfect range.
Yeah.
You're missing. And it just, like, constantly feels bad.
It's a Star Wars game. Like, add some generosity to stuff.
Right. Where you're swinging and missing because you're, like, 1 inch further away than you're supposed to be. It just doesn't feel good at all.
No.
And And then the other problem is, like, I think you're supposed to play, like, super parry heavy. I think you're supposed to, like, block and parry things all the time.
I did a lot of I kind of built my character around, like, whenever I parry, it, like, breaks their, what's their, like, stance bar, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, sure, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
How did you even build? I don't even know how you...
I don't know. But that did help.
I don't like parrying in games. I don't think it's like a mechanically fun thing to do. I've just never enjoyed it. I'm not good at the timing with parries either, but I just think the idea of, like, I'm standing here waiting for you to hit me so I can hit the block button so I can get one hit in, and just, like, repeating that forever is just not like, I want to play aggressively in all games.
That's fair.
And Star Wars, I don't know, like, you're a Jedi with a like death beam in your hand, and you're supposed to play, like, block, poke, block, poke, block, poke, and it's like, that's so fucking boring. Like, I don't want to do that. And yeah, the number of times where I was, like, almost gonna scream at the fucking game in the combat encounters, just, like, it was constant. I was so fucking annoyed by the combat all the way through.
I don't know. The combat system for me, even though I like wasn't having as much difficulty, still, nah. This is just like
not there.
It's not good enough for, like, a AAA Star Wars game, in my opinion. At least if you want to fit into this genre. If you want a future in this genre, you know, the competition is high. Everyone wants a piece of it. No one seems to be able to get a piece of it because no one can make one of these good, apparently, except for From Software.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we weren't doing the tower, I would, like, not play the next game off of the back of this game. Because if you're not going to show a willingness to want to propel your game forward, then, I don't know, you just, like, lose my interest in seeing it progress.
Oh,
yeah. I don't want to play a 2019 game in 2026.
No. That's the other thing. I just don't think like, all the different ideas in this game work or make sense for what the game is supposed to be, which is a Star Wars game. I just, like, okay, the Dark Souls stuff adds nothing. Yeah. I don't know why it's in this game. I don't know why they have all these meditation points. I don't know why enemies respawn. I don't know why you lose your souls, or half of them, or whatever. I don't know why any of the Dark Souls stuff is in there, aside from being like, it's Star Wars, but Dark Souls. And it's like, they're so antithetical to each other. Like,
yeah, it is.
They don't make, it's like oil and water. Like, it's, Star Wars is supposed to be, and we'll talk about this in a second as well. I don't give a fuck about Star Wars, but Star Wars is mainstream, casual, fun, popcorn, nice, easygoing stuff. That's why Star Wars is popular. And so pairing that with, like, these weird systems from a game that is extremely hardcore, it just doesn't make sense to me. The Dark Souls systems just are there. They don't add to the experience. In Dark Souls, they're there for a reason, right? Because the game is hard. You're gonna die. You're punished. You're overcoming things.
Yeah, it is a bit weird.
It's not like you're dying a lot in this game and, my souls. Oh God, I gotta get back to my souls. Like, that's not happening in this game. It's like a linear action game.
Do you do you, like, have to include these mechanics to, like, use the metadata of the souls, like, tag in your SEO or some shit?
Right. It's just very odd. Like, it's just, I think the idea of, exploration, sort of open hub areas, Metroidvania elements, like, sure, fine. I don't necessarily think they add anything to the game, but I get those, right, in Star Wars. I can see it. But when you put in Dark Souls elements, and it just doesn't make sense to me at all.
I'm not...
Maybe if it was executed really well, it would make more sense. I don't know, but
I'm not fully committed to that. I think maybe there is something here. I do enjoy some of the boss fights, because I know that didn't really work well for you, but, like, the idea of having, like, a lightsaber battle in Star Wars only makes sense if there is some sort of combat system there with, like, an edge of difficulty. Yeah,
like, I think you can make a good game with good melee combat in Star Wars. I think that all makes sense. It's just the peripheral Dark Souls-y stuff that I just... Yeah. It just is so it just adds nothing to the game. And I think
the Souls games have, like, some lore to explain why enemies respawn upon a bonfire rest.
I'm sure they do, yeah.
Innocuous, weird stuff. But in Star Wars, it's just like,
right.
It's just a Souls. It doesn't make sense in a Star Wars game. It's weird.
No, it doesn't make sense in Star Wars. That's the thing for me.
I think I've said enough about combat. I want to say something positive.
Okay.
I really like the characters in this game.
Yeah, I'm 100%. Yeah.
Let's say something positive. I think the story is a little bit simple, but I don't mind that. I have no problem if a video game wants to be a little bit of a MacGuffin chase to achieve something. That's completely fine. Not every video game needs to be, like a JRPG or like a movie. It's fine. It's a simple story, but it takes you to cool locations. But yeah, I thought the cast of characters was much better than in the first game. They all have a reason to be there. They all have more depth. They kind of all go places. I think the crew gels together really well. Mm-hmm. I like Cal Kestis a lot. Really?
Okay.
I do. Because I think he has a bit more going on than just the Jedi. I don't know. He almost has like a bit of a Jedi complex, and everyone around him is like, "Is this really worth it, dude? Like, why don't we just go hide on this planet?" And yeah, I don't know. It was quite simple, but it worked for me. I think all the performances are really good as well. Everyone goes for it, and it's kind of the only thing that like really kept me going is I liked the cast of characters and their moments together.
Yeah, I think Cal's just a bit boring for me. He's just a bit, I don't know.
He's a Jedi though, so
Exactly, that's the thing, right? Like, it's just an inherent flaw of Star Wars at this point for me. It's just like, the Jedi are so fucking boring. I'm so tired. I don't care about the Jedi at all. That's why Andor was so fun.
Yeah,
it's like,
I think for a Jedi, he's got at least a couple of like facets of personality.
But yeah, the supporting characters are all great. What's her name? Marin, his love interest. She's good. They're both good together. His mentor.
Can't remember her name.
I can't remember her name. She was from the first one as well. She's that lady that does a lot of voice acting.
Yeah.
She's great.
She's great. Yeah.
I like the guy from the first game with the 4 arms. He's funny.
Yeah, the little onion man. I forgot his name.
Little onion man. I don't remember any of the character names.
All of their names.
Yeah, they're all good. Yeah, and I agree. The story stuff, like the storytelling, is well done. It reminds me, and the first game, it was well done as well. The storytelling, everyone's committed to it, and they execute well on it. It was a little, like, there wasn't really much intrigue for me, but it was still, the cutscenes are well presented and acted, and I enjoyed it. My favorite thing are the like tertiary characters in the game.
Yep, in the cantina.
So the whole cantina thing is very odd to me. I don't know. I don't really get it either. Again, there's a lot of systems in this game that you're just like, why is this here?
I don't know. It's the Horizon Forbidden West thing. Like, you gotta have a gardening system on the roof. I almost laugh out loud when it tried to tell me how to garden. I was like, I'm not fucking gardening. Are you out of your mind? I'm out of here.
The cantina is just kind of like full of a bunch of people that don't matter and you can talk to, and they just don't really say anything, and it's like, okay, whatever. But there's some fun characters there. I really like the fishing guy, the little Scottish fishing lobster guy. Is hilarious. Yeah, and I actually think the game is it has like a decent sense of humor at times as well in the sort of peripheral. I think they do really good droid writing and enemy writing. There's a lot of just funny dialogue from the droids. There's an amazing like Austin Powers gag in the middle of the game that comes out of nowhere with the hallway technician, where he just like runs down the hallway and is screaming at you, and the boss bar pops up.
Oh yeah,
that was genuinely one of the funnious things I've seen in a game in a while.
Like Phil the janitor or something.
Yeah, and like that, it really felt like an Austin Powers gag.
Yeah.
And that was very funny, and I was surprised that just chuckling at sort of incidental dialogue popping up and little moments like that for sure. Yeah.
We're on to the last part, which is exploration.
Yeah. I feel like the exploration stuff would be really cool if I cared about Star Wars at all. If I was like a big nerd and was like, oh, I get to customize my lightsaber, I'd be like, I'd probably really enjoy it, but I don't care.
No, I mean, colors are cool, but like the bolts and like,
I don't give a shit about any of that stuff.
Can't see it.
No, we complained about that in the first game. It's just like the exploration rewards weren't satisfying. and they're still not satisfying.
Well, I had a problem with the fact that they implement roguelite systems where you like hit a wall and it's like, you don't have this piece of equipment. But there's like 14 of them, so every time I would explore, I just couldn't go somewhere. And I just found that really annoying and off-putting. And then it became this weird thing where I was like, well, why would I explore when every time I keep hitting these dead ends? I might as well just wait till I have all these things, and that was at like the very end of the game.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't become like dynamic exploration, it just becomes me actually just doing everything at once. And it became like its own mini part of the game. And then, yeah, you just get a bunch of shit I don't really care about. And I wasn't having the hardest time with the game anyway. So I was just like, I don't know, there wasn't really any like crazy things to find. It was just like a cavern with some platforming and a box.
Yeah, and you get like, oh, I can make BD1, I can change his feet. Oh. Like I said I changed Cal's look slightly.
I didn't.
I didn't change his face. I just put the brown leather jacket on him about 40 minutes into the game. I changed the lightsaber to be purple. Yeah. And I made BD1 slightly different, and then I never touched any of it ever again after the first hour. And because I was just like, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. I can't see the lightsaber hilts. BD looks funny all the time and is a little dog thing, and I don't really I just don't care about any of that stuff. So
yeah.
I don't know what you do to fix that.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. Like Star Wars,
I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired.
Yeah, it just doesn't. The game just doesn't work for me.
The game has like moments of it working for me, but I just don't think, like, I don't know, like for a sequel, you just gotta make the game better. Like isn't that like a rule?
Right.
Like, apparently Western game designers, you just add more content and add an open world and then fucking ship it, and that's a sequel.
And then
nowadays.
you get like 5 extra points on Metacritic.
On Metacritic,
30% longer. Yeah.
More hour playtime? Okay.
That's pretty much all people seem to want. Yeah.
Alright. Tower time.
Alright. Tower time.
Jesus Christ.
I
am not putting this game above Dead Island 2. I'm putting my foot down because of all this critical bullshit of people saying like Dead Island 2 sucks and this game rules. Eat shit, man. Dead Island 2 I think Dead Island 2 should go above this game.
I was thinking it should go above Dying Light 2, and yeah, that's it. Well,
Dying Light 2. Yeah, Dying Light 2. I don't know. Dying Light.
I had almost no fun at all with Dying Light 2, and I think Dying Light 2. Okay, here's my argument for why it should be above. It's exactly Jedi Survivor is the same as the first game. Dying Light 2 is worse in every way than the first game.
That is a good argument.
Yeah. But I'm with you. Like, Dead Island 2 is a better video game. Like, straight up. It's way more polished. It feels better. Yeah, it's simple, but, like, it works.
I think I'm with you. I was umming and ahhing about should Dying Light 2 be above Star Wars whatever, because I had fun with Dying Light 2. But I did like Star Wars' story, maybe more the characters rather than the journey they went on, but I still did have fun following them, and I did have some fun with the combat in Star Wars. It wasn't all shit. Platforming was nothing really, but like the locations were cool. There was some cool cinematic moments in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Overall, I can't like drag it down just because I'm bewildered about the lack of improvements across the board. You kind of have to still look at the game. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. I will say it's closer than it should be, but I think I'm happy to put Star Wars above Dying Light 2.
I think like there are definitely chunks of time where I enjoyed Jedi Survivor way more than Dead Island 2 because Dead Island 2 is a very simple and kind of boring to me in a way, but Dying Light 2 just like it works. Like it's a and I don't just mean function, but like it's a coherent package. Like it works on like a fundamental design level, in the loop is good and it feels good and it feels like well made, and Jedi Survivor just parts of it feel really well made, and then other parts where you're playing the game don't. And yeah, I would definitely put it above Dying Light 2 for me for sure. Because I did not enjoy Dying Light 2. I definitely enjoyed chunks of Jedi Survivor for sure, but
yeah, it's not like argument worthy, because I'm umming and ahhing between Dying Light 2 and Jedi Survivor, so I think I'm pretty happy to put it below Dead Island 2. This series is now like, I'm talking about Jedi Survivor, it's like the most overrated like video game franchise at the moment for me.
Yeah.
Can't believe people like super love these games.
It's very much like on ice for me now. I'm just like, I don't even know if I want to play a third game. Like
that would be exhausting, and we know it's coming.
Yeah, and I mean obviously it's like 3 or 4 years from now, but I just don't expect them to improve anything again.
No, why should we?
And I don't care enough about the story or characters to suffer through the frustration of the bad combat and all that shit.
Yeah, it's gonna suck. Because we're gonna have to play it. The tower's gonna be fucking huge as well.
I don't want to think about these things. Yeah, I think that's good. The bottom 3.
Yeah, you deserve it.
It's kind of embarrassing, honestly.
Someone had to put it in his place.
I'm with you for sure.
Alright, moving on, it is time for a bit of a bigger game in terms of scale, popularity, IP. It's just a little thing.
Every conceivable way, yeah.
It's just another Zelda game.
They put those out like every year, so it's really not a big deal at this point.
It's not a big deal at all. Sarcasm is such an intelligent form of comedy. God, we are so good.
This is why we are so successful.
Yeah. It's Tears of the Kingdom. It's a weird one to know where to start. These, like, big open world games are always a nightmare to kind of dive into. Maybe just start by saying that I did like Breath of the Wild. I actually replayed it just before Tears of the Kingdom. And I think that's a good game. I think people were maybe a little bit over-enthusiastic when it comes to the critical review cycle.
With a Nintendo game?
Yeah, with a Zelda game. But I think, I can't really remember our overall opinions, but I do remember that both of us were like, this is a good beginning format, which can be built upon in the future. And they definitely did that. And I'll start off by saying that after playing Jedi Fallen whatever, it was really nice to just play a sequel which felt like a sequel.
Oh, yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom really is Breath of the Wild 2, in a way which was nice. Because I liked Breath of the Wild, and I would say, overall, Tears of the Kingdom is just Breath of the Wild, but better in most areas. Most areas.
Yeah, there's a few missing improvements, but, yeah.
I would say this is a game of, like, 2 halves for me. Not literally in the game, as in my experience, my playthrough, but my second half, just like in Elden Ring, I kind of started to see the patterns, and I found that the magic kind of fell away for like the last 3 temples, and yeah, I'm not suggesting that my second half of the game was a bad experience. It just was very similar to Elden Ring, where I started to see the Matrix code. I started to get less excited to explore, and I kind of just like got to the end and wanted to see the credits roll and move on and then come back when a little bit of time had passed and that freshness could come back to my brain. Because, 70 hours is a long time, and I don't know if it's a problem with Tears of the Kingdom or Elden Ring, or if there just isn't really a game world which my brain can find fascinating for like 100 hours.
Yeah.
I feel like it might be a brain thing. I was talking to some people and they were like, I'm 200 hours into Tears of the Kingdom. And there's no way in hell I could play 200 hours of this game without just not wanting to play it. So maybe I'm just like not built to play games for that long. And games keep getting longer and longer. But anyway, that's just my like overarching opinions. Overall, I had an amazing time in this game, and I have a lot of things that we'll get into that I think are kind of amazing, and a couple of areas which I think could do with some work, and I hope are built on for the inevitable third game.
Yeah, I'll work slightly backwards, and I'll say that I definitely understand what you mean in that, like, at a certain point, it just sort of plateaus a little bit. And that's not necessarily, like, I don't necessarily hold that as a criticism and all that much, because it's sort of just like, when you have 50 hours of tricks up your sleeve, you know, that's pretty amazing. And then you start to see some of the tricks again, or you just sort of start to know what to expect. And it does sort of eventually level out for sure, which is, I don't know. I think that's sort of inevitable with any game.
Yeah.
But the time it took for that took a lot longer for me, for sure. I quite enjoyed Breath of the Wild. I only played it the one time. It was the first Zelda I'd ever played, which was, I don't know. I still don't know what a Zelda dungeon really is. But Breath of the Wild was neat. It was a little weird, definitely, how crazy everyone went for it. But I get it. Like, I understand why people love that game so much. And I definitely regard a lot of parts of that game very highly, for sure. And, you know, all the systems in it are amazing. They just weren't the right systems for my brain. I did not interact with them in a very clever way at all. But I love just like wandering around that world. I would not say I was like, wow, Breath of the Wild, best game ever, that's for sure. And I went into Tears, definitely, I don't know, just kind of like empty slate.
Yeah,
just,
I'd say so.
Curious, very curious, because it had been a good chunk of time since Breath of the Wild. But pretty much from the get-go, when I started with Tears of the Kingdom on the excellent Sky tutorial island stuff, which I spent like 7 hours doing, I was like, oh, yeah, this game's pretty good. And so I put 130 hours into it and pretty much enjoyed all of it, and I think this game's pretty good. I think mechanically it's kind of insane.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a miracle that it exists on the hardware it exists on, which will come up again, I'm sure. But I had a lovely, lovely time with it from start to finish. And
nice.
It makes me look at Breath of the Wild and be like, I can understand if my brain was the type to think about these systems and use these systems in the way that I use them in Tears of the Kingdom. I can definitely understand why people hold Breath of the Wild in high regard. But I agree also, Tears of the Kingdom is better in like pretty much every way for me.
Well, yeah, the biggest thing is, I don't know, like, I just played Breath of the Wild, and I don't really think it's your fault that you didn't think of like amazingly creative things to do with stasis and magnesis, because there wasn't a huge amount of like crazy things you could do with those systems. You know, you could fling things, you could freeze things. There was still like the cool environmental systems. I think the only like crazy thing I can remember from my replay of Breath of the Wild is like cutting down a tree log, which had buoyancy, so I stood on the tree log and floated down a river to get into a cave. Obviously in Tears of the Kingdom you would make a raft, but in Breath of the Wild that felt like a really clever solution. But the systems in Tears of the Kingdom are just, they might be like the most ridiculous example of game design in like decades, I think.
Oh yeah, I think like mechanically it might be the craziest thing ever made. Like, I feel like all three of the main systems are just like, in any other game it would completely destroy that game. It would just explode. Like, and they have 3 of them, and they don't really force any of them down your throat. They're just like, you want to use them? Go do whatever you want. Fuck, I don't know. Bye. And it's crazy.
Yeah, it just feels absolutely ridiculous, and it almost gives me like anxiety to think of how hard it would have been to make these things not make the game explode. Not just from like a technological point, just from like a gameplay design perspective. I think some of them, which are maybe like less along those lines, things like Ascend and Fuse, are still like really cool. And I wouldn't have been surprised if like maybe just Ascend and Fuse were like the new things. That would have felt like a sequely thing. Like if just those were the new 2 things, I'd be like, okay, that's cool. Fuse is a cool thing. I like experimenting with that. They really thought out like the different arrowheads and making weird weapons. And Ascend is just infinitely satisfying to like climb up a mountain in 1 second. But Ultra Hand and Auto Build, I just don't know how they did it. I don't know how they made that work. It's just like the most overly ambitious, ridiculous thing I've seen in like an open world game in years. Like, how could they have like said that around the, I was gonna say writing table, but you know what I mean, the game dev table, and then be like, yeah, we can make that work. Like, huh? It's like a modding tool. It's like a Gary's modding tool, but in like an open world game with puzzles and temples and fuck, like shit, dude.
You're also forgetting the whole thing where you can rewind time on
right,
objects.
I am forgetting
too.
reversal, yeah.
So there's also reversal, but yeah, Ultra Hand really is like the main one, I would say.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I really like Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, and have long said, why have more people not done this? Probably because it's difficult.
Oh yeah.
And this is the first follow-up to Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. They finally did it, but they put it in a giant freeform open world game, and it's insane. And it's not just vehicle building, like just the number of like
it's not just vehicles.
Just like clever problem solving you can come up with by just combining objects together. They just put all these systems in and let you do whatever you want with them wherever, and and the game never broke. Or it not like in a technical sense, but you are breaking the game constantly in the sense of like you're getting that feeling of, did I do this the way I was supposed to? What does that even mean? What is the designed way to do this? It doesn't really matter, but I was constantly having that feeling of, yeah, I think I just did that shrine real dumb.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know how you were supposed to solve that, but I did it my way, and it made me feel good, and that's like one of the best feelings in games, and this game just does it constantly.
It's just crazy that it works.
Yeah.
I can't believe this game works. I don't know if you have like, I didn't have any like bugs or crashes.
Nothing.
I didn't like fall through the world. I just like, I've seen like maybe on Reddit a couple of like weird physics stuff, but like, it's just, how does this game work? I don't get it.
It's
like
Switch.
A
technical. I know, it's a technical marvel.
Yeah.
Like it truly is, and there, pretty much every time I was in a vehicle like bombing around, usually I flying around, I would just have this moment of just like, how is this possible? It feels impossible that I built this little thing and I'm flying around this world that is so gigantic vertically and horizontally, and it's on this little handheld that I'm playing, like lying on my couch, and it's insane.
While we're on this topic, I just like have a miscellaneous thing that I really want to shout out. I don't know how to describe it, but the building system has good, what's the word here? It's like the visual, physical, like design of how like things stick together. I just like how it looks. I like the glue. Another random example is like, I like how when you have a steak and you like put it into the ground and it goes red hot, like you're melting the steak into the ground. I like how auto build like slurps up all these things. I don't know what to call that. It's just like game feel and design. There's like a clumsy physicality to the building. It doesn't feel clean. It feels like shoddy, but in a way which is like cool. And I don't know how to describe it. I just like the aesthetic of the building. Does that make sense?
It feels sloppy in a way that feels good. Like it feels like it doesn't belong in the game. And just the way like things stick together and glue, that stuff. I know exactly what you mean.
It's like they spent like 100 hours on like just small minute details of like the sound when things stick together, and I don't like how much something can take before it snaps off in a weird way. I don't know. It just feels so well thought out and tested over and over again.
And that's just one of the like 5 core gameplay mechanics.
Yeah.
Then there's the fact that they're just like, you can just ascend through literally any surface.
Oh my god!
In the entire game.
I don't know. Again, I don't know what to call it. It's like visual audio design. Like ascend is the most satisfying thing ever.
So
like the crunch is when you like insert yourself into this mountain and you're like swimming through, and like the longer it takes, you're like, oh, this is a good ascend, man. And you like pop out. Oh god, it's so satisfying.
It's the little things that take a good game to a great game, or a great game to an amazing one. It's just like the little bits of game feel, the little bits of sound design that take a good mechanic and just make it feel excellent. I mean, like the sound design across the whole thing, just the visual representation, the little vibration, everything. Those are the tiny things that are hard to put a value on outside of just like, it feels good, it sounds good, it makes everything feel right. And that's the stuff that separates like the best games from the great games. So I never used reversal as much as I wish I had.
My hot take was going to be that I don't know about reversal overall. I'm not sure about that one.
It's fun against a few types of enemies, right?
Yeah.
It's handy when you like drop something off of a high platform and you can catch it and recall it to yourself.
That's kind of one of my issues, is I think it's funny when you make mistakes and your plane falls off a cliff, and it just, I don't know, it feels like cheating if you can just like bring everything back up to you. And also I had this thing where, I'm sure everyone else figured out, where you just like pick up a platform, you put it in the air, you put it down, you step on it, you reverse it, and you have an elevator everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And it just felt like having Rivali's Gale all over again. And I just kind of broke every shrine with it. And the counter is don't do it. You know, just, you don't have to do it. But it's really hard to like not use a Rivali's Gale when you can do it, because it feels like I am problem solving when I lift something up and I reverse it. Like I'm using the tools in a way which feels kind of intelligent, like I've figured out a mechanic here, a system here. But it just like broke everything. And I don't know, that's kind of all I use reversal for. And I also, this is a bit nitpicky, but I didn't like the like visuals of reversal when the whole world goes grey. I found it like visually a bit strange to see what was going on at times.
The little like the lines showing where they're going can be a little weird sometimes, and the
a little weird, yeah.
And just like your limited turn radius, you know, when like you can't, if you don't have it in your field of view when you hit the button, you can't like push your camera down slightly more to click on it.
But again, it's using like good puzzle design in shrines and in temples, so I feel like the game wouldn't work without it. But it just like broke the less constructed puzzles, like the world. I feel like it just kind of like broke things. And I don't know, if your thing falls off a cliff, I think you should deal with that. I think that's funny.
It mostly worked for me because I would often just forget I had it. And so if something fell, I'd be like, ah, fuck. And then I would remember like a couple seconds too late and be like, ah, shit, I could have reversaled that. Fuck.
Yeah. And also it does help you get on those like sky rocks and back into the sky, which are really helpful early on. So I don't know. I don't know. It's a hard one because reversal has a lot of good uses. There's a lot of good puzzle moments. I just kind of broke the game with it. And I had the same thing with Breath of the Wild in my replay, where I had Rivali's Gale, and I was just like skipping floors on a temple without unlocking the elevators. And it's just a weird part of these games where you can break the game, or not break the game, because you're just using, I don't know, it's weird. I just like, maybe take it away from me in shrines that don't use it. I'm not sure what the solution is, because I kind of want to do the vanilla puzzles, but I don't have to, and then you have to just restrain yourself from using the tools, and I'm not sure.
I am the opposite. I really hate when games take away your abilities, because it just feels like a lazy, like, we don't know how to stop you from doing this, so you can't do it. And my least favorite shrines are the Proving Ground shrines.
Oh, I love the Proving Ground shrines.
And every time I'm just my brain just likes when I do that, when I make the elevator and reversal it, to just cheat. It feels like cheating, basically.
Yeah, but you don't get to do the puzzles.
I like just being like, nah, fuck you, I skipped that, haha, bye. I think it's just, I don't know, it's just a case of different brains for sure, because I always find that really satisfying.
Apart from that, I just think the systems are kind of incredible. I'm going to just move into shrines, because the shrines are, in Breath of the Wild, they were okay, and I have mixed feelings about them in Tears of the Kingdom. Some of them are really, really good. Some of them feel just like glorified tutorials about how to use the systems in clever ways, which I think is mostly smart. But sometimes you can stumble into these shrines when you've already figured out the thing is trying to tutorialize. I found it very weird that there was like combat tutorials spread out across the world in shrines. That was really bizarre.
Definitely.
I found one like 50 hours in on how to use a bow. I don't know what they were thinking with that. The shrines continue to be a bit of a mixed bag for me overall, because I just think overall the quality is a little bit all over the place. I feel like there could be less of them, but at the same time, that wouldn't work because they are teleportation points. They're how you get around and navigate the map, so they kind of have to have a lot of them. So yeah, I still feel like shrines could overall be better, but I do think they're superior in Tears of the Kingdom, but mostly just because the systems that you're playing with and experimenting with are so much better in Tears of the Kingdom compared to Breath of the Wild.
I definitely like the shrines a lot more in this than than Breath of the Wild, for sure. Again, like you said, because the mechanics are so much stronger. And yeah, sort of like the main sort of experience through the game, the shrines definitely sort of burn out a little bit after, 70% of the way through the game. You just sort of, it's sort of like Elden Ring at a certain point where it's just like, I've seen the tricks. I will say though, for whatever reason, I had left most of the last like 10 shrines I had left, because I did all of them, were the sky shrines sort of in the south and southwest, and for whatever reason those were like the most interesting shrines in the game, and I happened to do all of them basically last. And so I ended on a high note with the shrines. They were the types of shrines that were puzzles in the world itself, and not like move the green block to the puzzle, but like reflect the light all over this room to open up the gate to get into the shrine. And there were like 6 of those that I did sort of all in a row in my last few hours with the game, and they were all really good.
Some really good shrines.
I would have liked a few more of those, but the nice byproduct of that was just I ended on a high note with the shrines, for sure.
I'm looking forward to doing them all. I got to 90, I believe, so I got like 62 left.
There's a lot of fucking shrines.
Yeah, this game is just absolutely ridiculous when it comes to content.
It's insane.
It's like staggering.
They did the Elden Ring thing, but bigger. But like twice, because there's the sky and the depths, and oh
yeah, the depths. We have to kind of have to get into the depths.
Remember, they made a map under the map, and it's the size of the entire main fucking map?
Yeah. I will say,
God.
I have some things to say about the depths, but I will start with like the reveal of the depths is like kind of amazing when you first just dive in, just because I love the weird red chasms they're called in the game. Just diving into those is incredible from a design perspective.
And the like music stinger when you get in there, and the pitch blackness of it all,
And the revelation or the realization that it's the entire map. That's incredible. And then you have the second realization that it's inverted.
Right.
And that was like, it took the internet like 3 to 4 days to realize that, the mountains are chasms and the light roots are shrines. And it was like, oh shit, that's so smart, because I'm going to eventually do a Breath of the Wild playthrough, or continue my Breath of the Wild playthrough where I do all the shrines. And I'm going to have to get up a guide. Like, I don't know how I would find the shrines without them. But in Tears of the Kingdom, I mean, you've done them, so you know better than me, but logically, you could just do the light routes, and then you can just flip it and find the shrines via the light routes, which is just, like, kind of genius again, all over again. It's just, like, another case of them being so clever.
The only ones that you have to, like, sort of hunt down are the Sky Island ones, and that's it.
Right. Even with the Sky Islands, it's kind of like you can see where a chunk of islands are, and it's probably a shrine per chunk. I'm guessing, anyway.
It was pretty easy to find the Sky Island ones,
Yeah. So, like, that reveal was incredible, and it was very reminiscent of, like, when you first look at the full map, the JPEG of the full map in Elden Ring, and be like, holy shit, this is ridiculous. But the depths is a bit of a weird area for me. I didn't love it down there. I really didn't love the depths.
I don't know if you're supposed to love the depths, but I know what you mean.
I feel like I disliked it more than most people. People seem to really like the depths. Like, I remember, like, seeing you and Ben have, like, 100 light routes, and I was like, I just don't want to be down there. It was fun to explore, but I feel like it's just, like, one giant biome, except for a few, like, lava areas. And again, I haven't explored all of it, so I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff I haven't seen. But it's just, like, dark and covered in shit that you can't stand on. And it just felt really repetitious to go around, and a small complaint, like, it's just like a UI stuff, but like getting out an item to throw is you have to hold down up on the D-pad over and over and over and over again. And I was just so sick of just like getting out these light, whatever you call them, bulbs, and just chucking them over and over and over again. And then there's like these walls everywhere because, you're hitting a fucking river basically, or a mountain, whatever the opposite. is in the above ground. That's why there's a giant wall in the depths, but it's not like the above ground where you can like use towers and just like keep going, and if it's a mountain, you climb over it. In the depths, there's just like walls, and you have to leave and find like a new entrance. And it's just dark all the time, and I can't see shit. And all the enemies take your heart. I just found it annoying and obnoxious. Mostly the game does a pretty good job of not forcing you to explore more than you want to of the depths. I did have to do like a little bit to get my batteries up to like 5 or 6. And then apart from that, I mostly didn't go down there. I would say I still spent like 10, 15 hours exploring the depths. But then I saw like, it's another Yiga camp, it's another mine. What else is down there? I don't know, like a bunch of annoying enemies covered in red goo.
Yeah, some Colosseums.
I feel like the depths would have been a really, really cool temple/dungeon. I don't know if we needed a whole map worth of the depths, in my opinion. And it ties into the economy as well. Like, I was a bit Zonite poor at one point.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, the game's very clever. The auto-build system's very intelligent, where if you just find the items, you don't have to pay for them through Zonite. But if you want to be, like, a bit ambitious or, like, get a bit crazy with your designs, they're not going to be in, like, the vanilla building plots around the world. You're going to have to spend some bucks to spawn them or drop the things on the ground first. And yeah, I just, like, had a bit of a limitation with how crazy my vehicles could get. Because I had like 40 Zonite and I just didn't want to go down there again. And again, I didn't hate the depths. I just much preferred being in the above ground where I could see where the hell I was going.
Yeah. The depths feels like a first draft the way a lot of Breath of the Wild felt like that. You know, where it's like, okay, the second version will probably be way more interesting. I enjoyed it as a change of pace. And I enjoyed popping down there every week or so and building my little hover bike and just bombing around. And once you have a flying vehicle that's cheap to build and you slap a giant bright bloom blossom onto the front of it so you can just see as you're flying everywhere, you can really start to map that place out really quickly and get around it really easily. I just enjoyed it as a change of pace, as something to map out the shrines, to get Zonite, to get Yiga schematics, and to just sort of like kick my feet back and just... there was something very just sort of relaxing about the depths to me. I wasn't engaging with the combat. I would just drop down to the mines when I saw them.
Yeah.
Take what I got from there and keep flying around. And it was just, it's just satisfying, like, visceral cleanup duty sort of type satisfaction to me of just mapping. I really hate not being able to see my map in video games. Like the first thing I did in GTA 5 when it came out was I hijacked an airplane and flew a straight line pattern back and forth across the entire map so it was fully unfogged because I just don't like it. And so I quite enjoyed mapping the whole place out. But I do agree, it's just sort of, I think my two biggest issues with the depths are the fact that most of the Zonite is behind enemies. I mean, there are the mines, of course, but there's a lot of the deposits have enemies at them. Yeah. And the deposits just don't drop enough Zonite. They drop 2 or 3. Yeah. And it's a weird limitation on the auto build stuff, and it feels a little out of touch with the rest of the mechanics because all the other mechanics have no limitations, right? And it's just sort of a weird clash. I think that's the main issue I would say I have with the depths. I liked the few times where there was like a really tricky to figure out spot to get to, because it got me to explore the main level of the map more thoroughly than I would have. But I like the depths. I don't love it, that's for sure. And I think it's a cool idea. That was an amazing surprise for sure. Yeah. And I think a second iteration to mix it up a little bit more, like you said, the lack of like biome changes, it really is just the lava area, and that's everywhere else in the game is that in the depths is the same except for the lava area. And a little more personality in the depths, a little more variety, I think would have helped it. I didn't
hate it. I just was a bit tired of it and didn't like it in comparison to exploring the normal Hyrule world.
Yeah, I think the concept of the depths is really cool. I think it can be iterated on quite a bit to improve, for sure.
Yeah.
And I really like the Sky Island additions. They're not huge, but I just like the feeling up there. They got it's always sunny. There's the nice chill. There's the nice music. There's almost no enemies. Lighting. The game, despite running and looking like shit, it also looks great. Like, it's a beautiful game. Totally.
Art direction goes a long way.
The art direction is fantastic. I mean, of course it is. It's Nintendo. Yeah. But yeah, like, just the feeling of a lot of the areas, and especially up in the Sky Islands, it just feels nice because it looks good and it sounds good and it's quieter up in the sky. I liked the variety of sky main depths because each zone offers a different vibe and a different pace. And the depths are sort of quiet and sinister.
Yeah, I can see that.
The main map is sort of a mixture of like open and clusterfuck, and the sky is just like free, clear, fresh. There's nothing to worry about, and I liked the variety of just sort of dipping through all three of those layers constantly.
Like, the scale of the map is just absurd, man. Like, it's
so fucking crazy.
Ridiculous. I just can't believe it.
I don't know how they did it.
For 6 years, it's like very impressive.
Yeah, and on the technology, right?
Yeah.
Like, on the Switch, it just is hard to wrap my head around. And there were many moments throughout where I was just marveling at, like, how did they do this on the Switch? You know, if you said, okay, they spent 6 years and it's on the PS5, I'd be like, yeah, no problem, I get it. But like, this game is more ambitious technically and on a scale level than every fucking next gen game I've played by like a factor of 10.
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of just the size and the mechanical density of it.
Yeah,
and it's on this tiny little shitty tablet that you know, and I mean, the frame rate is bad a lot for me, especially. It sounds like it was more stable for you, but you know, even those, when the frame, at a certain point, like the frame drops, I'm just like, yeah, I get it, it's fine, don't worry about it. You know,
it's forgivable.
It's like, okay, yeah, I see why this is struggling, because this little tablet is running this game that is bigger than anything else I've pretty much ever played. So yeah, it's a crazy thing that they made. They really went crazy with it. In like, yeah.
We haven't talked about combat or dungeons yet. Let's start with maybe a more negative one, which is I just don't really like the combat in this game. I think there's not enough enemy variety. It is better than Breath of the Wild, but the game is, 90 to 100 hours long. And if you compare it to something like Elden Ring, which has like hundreds of enemies, it kind of takes away from some of the cooler moments, because like fighting the Construct boss fight for the first time was amazing, because that thing is like mechanically, it's mechanically incredible, even if it kind of takes your frame rate down to 2. Like the way that thing like moves and morphs, it's such like a fun fight to figure out, especially when you have to figure out how to like get on top of it when it's in the air through different means. But it's kind of like the dragon in Elden Ring, where after fighting it like 8 times, I just would ignore it, because I don't want to fight it 8 times, even if the fuse thing it drops is good for my weapons. Like, I've got a bunch of shit anyway. I just think overall, there needs to be more enemies and boss variety. I just also don't really like the feel of melee combat in this game. I did find it fun to mess around with bows and arrows, because all the arrow fusing stuff is really goofy and fun. But it's just like melee combat which didn't work for me, and I also didn't find the fuse system maybe as experimentally interesting when it came to the melee weapons. I know there is like some cool stuff you can stick to melee weapons to have like goofy effects, but I kind of would just like sort by fuse power and just drop the most powerful thing every time. And yeah, I don't really know how to improve that. They obviously made bows and arrows better, which is a fun alternative. They made it that you can basically create little weapons, automated little drone weapons on your vehicles with Zonite devices, which is a really cool solution. And also you have companions, which we will get to in a little bit. It just feels like instead of making melee combat better, they just gave you more options, which is a fair solution, because I used all of them. And I mostly avoided melee combat whenever I could. But I would say overall I kind of just avoided combat whenever I could. I I don't know what they need to do to make me want to engage with it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I'm sort of like a little 50-50 on if it matters or not. Because I think, like, I'm with you. The combat, I know there is depth to it because I've seen, the clips, and, like, that's cool. But when it comes to just moment-to-moment playing, I played exactly the same way when it came to the combat. The only difference is I was definitely in the back half spawning vehicles a lot more to help me. And
I've seen some of your stuff, and it's pretty cool.
The drones really, like, you put like 4 lasers on a drone and maybe spawn 2 of those in, and it really deletes everything except for cool. The Gleeoks and the Lynels destroy them, unfortunately, which is I think actually that's one of my biggest complaints about the whole game, is that there are certain bosses where they're just like, no, you're not allowed to use the fun thing here, which is like, okay, I guess, but so like those are an amazing addition, and I think like that's where my sort of doesn't matter or not comes in, because it's not, to me at least, this isn't a game like Elden Ring, where like Elden Ring is the combat system, right, and it is the enemies, and this is more about exploring and playing around with things, and I think the enemies and the combat, like, it does sort of, they're more like obstacles in a sense, but they're sort of there, it feels like, to encourage you to experiment and goof around with systems, but also, like, I didn't do that as much as I probably should have, because
I wouldn't
it's
say
not
should
very...
have, it's up to you.
Yeah,
really.
I know. Exactly, yeah, and it's like, I didn't engage with that as much because it's just like, yeah, I mean, I was the same for you. After a certain point, I'm just running past everyone. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't get anything from fighting you. I'm just going to use meals, and that's about it, and break my good weapon. But yeah, I didn't enjoy the combat all that much. But again, I'm not sure. I'm sort of unsure about the combat.
I think it's a valid point, because like almost every complaint I have about the game is so intelligently designed that you can kind of just not do it and you're fine.
Right.
Like, when I got a little bit fatigued by the game, I just finished it, and I can come back later when I want to.
Yeah.
When I got bored of the depths, I just didn't go in them. And my zonite economy was a little limited, but also you don't really need to use vehicles if you don't want to. Like, the game is designed around that. You can just climb up a mountain, old school Breath of the Wild style. And also, what was the last thing we were talking about? I'm missing one. The combat. Like, I just kind of went around it, and obviously there's a couple of boss fights, but that's not really mob battles. It's like its own cinematic thing. And
the boss fights were fun for the most part.
So even though there's so many like facets of this game, there will probably be something that everyone doesn't really click with, whether it's the depths or Sky Islands or whatever. But the game is mostly really intelligently designed, where you can just kind of ignore it. And, it's fair to criticize a system that you didn't enjoy, because we all want to enjoy every part of every game and get more out of it. But, like, I don't know, man. Like, for every complaint, I just come back to complimenting the game, which is kind of a weird thing to do in, like, a game review.
It's like almost immune to criticism, because you're like...
Almost, yeah.
Every part of it is so cleverly designed that if you don't click with huge aspects of it, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't matter. So it's like,
not really, no.
Is that bad design? No, it's actually probably like, is it the case that it's so well designed that it's like, it just sort of like nothing matters? It's weird. I think that is a major strength of it, is the fact that you can just, if you don't like something, you just don't engage with it, and your game is fine. Like, you still have a great time through it. That speaks to the complexity of the whole thing, for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's worth criticizing things, of course. And I do think the combat could be more interesting. Dungeons?
Sure. Let's talk about dungeons. I don't really have a lot to say about the dungeons. They are better than Breath of the Wild. But I still don't like the new format, as much as the old Zelda format. Like, it's kind of the same shit. You have an end to the dungeon, which is very similar to a Divine Beast, where there's like 4 things. And I found all of those insanely easy and would last like 10 to 15 minutes for every dungeon.
They're like really, really easy shrines.
Yeah.
Like 4 of them in a row,
Yeah, and they've changed them compared to Breath of the Wild, where there's like a longer lead up to those sections. There's more like platforming and exploration and more talking to characters. And it just, I don't know, it just didn't really add a lot, making those sections like thicker. And I just don't like that format as much as the old format. I feel like the one that got closest to feeling a little bit like an old dungeon was the one in Death Mountain, where you're like opening the map and you're like, where the fuck does this rail track go? And that felt like an old Zelda dungeon where you're like, it's a navigational puzzle, and I just miss the old design. I found all the temples to be very easy and kind of thoughtless, and the bosses were all a pushover as well. They're better than Breath of the Wild, and I still enjoyed them. I just miss being like stuck and scratching my head in a Zelda dungeon, because I used to, and I don't anymore. They're all like very easy.
I did not like the Divine Beasts in Breath of the Wild at all.
That's
I
fair,
thought
yeah.
like the puzzles were completely lame, and then they ended with really shitty boss fights. I remember really not liking a couple. I remember the water boss fight just being awful, and like it's a cool idea, you know, the big beasts, Shadow of the Colossus thing, but they were just not there for me. And the dungeons themselves in this just feel, again, yeah, you said it, they're better, but they were so light and nothing, and they were like the least interesting thing in the game for me, really, honestly.
The bosses are better, like much better.
Oh yeah. I actually enjoyed all the boss fights in this game. I thought they were, they're easy, but the designs are great. The weird creatures are kind of, they feel out of place in a cool way, and they were good moments. Yeah, there was no frustrating boss fights in this the way there was in the first game.
For sure.
They feel like they're supposed to be these huge moments because there's only 4 or 5 of them in the whole game, but they're kind of like, they felt like an afterthought for me in my playthrough. I'd be like, oh, it's been 30 hours. I should probably go and do one of these, I guess, to progress. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And that was all. Yeah, they're sort of still feel like they don't know quite how to integrate them. I don't know, or maybe they just need to make them really easy because of the wide player base. I'm not sure.
I also don't know why they have to follow such like a regimented format in the main 4 dungeons. Like they feel like so similar. Like people's brains can't handle variation. Like I really liked the underground temple, the sage one, the spirit one, where you're kind of like building the body.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just a little bit different.
Yeah, and having to like transport the thing back.
Yeah.
That was like, it's still the same structure of do four things 4 times, but it's a clever play on the structure for sure.
Yeah, I just wish the dungeons were a bit more, I don't know, challenging and thoughtful, and I don't know, they just took longer to figure out.
Yeah.
I feel like the only thing left is just talking about side quest stuff and like characters, etc. Because I don't want to go into it too much. I like From Software's design of games where it's gameplay first. I'm liking your game. I'm just playing your game. I kind of like need there to be a very valid reason to stop me in my tracks from playing your game, especially if it's a really good game and I'm really enjoying it. And the characters and dialogue in this game were not it. They were not good enough to demand me to stop over and over and over again for this trivial, like childish, annoying chatter. I just preferred Breath of the Wild, which had like less of that. It was mostly just like a couple of people around the world, and then you get to the main cities and you would have the little character moments, which is fine. But like Tears of the Kingdom was just full of people who were just chatting non-stop, and again, like all my other complaints, you can ignore it. I was just skipping through all the dialogue and none of it mattered. I ignored pretty much all the quests in this game, and I actually am glad I did, because I found the temple under the ground, I found the Master Sword, all without any quest guidance whatsoever, and that made it more satisfying. I just don't like the quest system in these games. I think From Software and Elden Ring's approach is better. I mean, you can complain about Elden Ring's side quest stuff, but it feels just like a immersive part of the world. And I just don't want to follow like map markers in games like this and talk to characters for like 20 minutes. I just, I think there's just too much of it. But again,
there is a lot of that stuff.
Spam the B button and you will be free. So there is always that.
I completely understand. I would just say that I actually quite enjoy all that stuff for whatever reason. I do agree people talk too much, absolutely. And at like the 80 hour mark or so, I was just like, I think I'm good. I don't think I care about what anyone's saying anymore for the most part, and started spamming it. But like, there was a lot of just, I don't know, there's just something about the personality of a lot of the writing that I actually do enjoy. And I think we don't need the quest objective repeated 8 times in a single interaction, but there were a fair number of funny little bits of writing that I came across that I enjoyed. But yeah, there's a lot more of it. The game is definitely full of that stuff, and I think the best quests are actually the really more open-ended ones that are like the treasure hunts. The treasure hunts are amazing.
Great. I love those ones.
Those are excellent. I would have liked more of those.
I think I might hate side quests in games now. I think that's a new character arc I'm going through with my video gaming.
That's fair.
I think I hate side quests.
Yeah, that's fair. I get it. Yeah. But yeah, that stuff worked for me. I enjoyed it. I think my biggest complaint probably about the whole game is the lack of small quality of life improvements in a few key areas.
Yeah, I know where you're going.
I think the inventory system is fucking terrible.
Yeah, it's so bad.
And it is exactly the same as it was in the first game. They did not improve it at all. I'm pretty sure, right?
Well, in Breath of the Wild, you didn't even have like the radial menus that you could scan through. You had to open up like the full menu for every item, basically.
Like, that was the main problem, I think, with the fusing items to arrows. I didn't experiment enough with that because finding the new random things just takes so long.
Yeah.
Like, you're scrolling through your entire inventory, and there's 100 items in your inventory, and you can fuse all of them to your arrow. And I mean, that's amazing, but also
maybe too amazing.
There's also a tiny little delay on the button press for your abilities and for swapping weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
And it fucking drove me crazy. I was still encountering it all the way through where it's like, no, switch to the other thing. And I'm moving too quickly to switch from auto build to fuse or whatever.
Yeah.
And you just have to be slightly more deliberate than you want to be. And it's just a really small little thing, but it sort of surprised me that it didn't get ironed out. There's just some weird quality of life UI stuff that I think they really missed the mark on. It doesn't ruin the game, of course, but it's just like, you're so close. Why? What's going on here?
Yeah. Again, in Breath of the Wild, when you got a power, you could just use it. But in this game, you have to summon a dude and then walk up to the dude who's running around and click A on him. It's so annoying, man. I forgot to say it. The companion system, I think, is trash. And you have to reactivate them in the menu every time. It's so annoying.
I kept them disabled, all of them, for the entire game. I didn't use them ever outside of the key story moments. If they had just been abilities like Rivali's Gale and all that, it would have been so much better.
So much better. Last miscellaneous complaint. It's not fun that rain makes you slip down surfaces. Stop doing it. It's not fun.
Fucking so shit.
It's so stupid.
It adds nothing.
It adds nothing.
Yeah.
I think, for me, dude, that mostly covers it.
Yeah, no, I think that's...
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably a million other things, but I feel like we were pretty thorough.
Yeah, we were thorough. It's overall, it's just one of the craziest feats of game design ever.
It really is.
There's multiple parts of this game which I didn't even connect with or really like, and I just come away from the game kind of stunned.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. I put 130 hours into the game, and I feel like I barely scratched the surface of the mechanical complexity of it. And that's just crazy.
But alright, do we need to even have a discussion? It's not really a chat for me about where this goes on the tower, for now.
Where would you put it?
Oh, it's top of the tower. It's above Elden Ring.
Okay, good.
By miles.
Yeah, 100%. It's the top, right?
It's the top of the tower. Elden Ring is amazing, but this is just so much more impressive.
I knew for me it was 100% above Elden Ring, but I wasn't 100% sure for you.
I had issues with Elden Ring as well. Overall, I had more fun with Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm just more impressed by it overall, even though Elden Ring's incredible.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think just mechanically, it's Elden Ring is a big Dark Souls mechanically, right? And it's insane, but Tears is just on a gameplay level just so singular and insane that it's I think it might be up there for quite a while.
I would probably agree.
Good job, Nintendo.
You bastards.
You bastards, yeah. It was nice to play Nintendo's major, like when they really go for it, they really go for it, don't they?
This Zelda specific team is just like top of the...
They're insane.
They're just ridiculous. They're magicians, basically.
They're top of the tower.
They're top of the tower. And that's how we shall end it. Yeah. Apart from that, guys, appreciate you guys listening.
Yeah. We'll be back. The tower grows evermore.
The tower grows evermore. I like that.
Dun, dun, dun.